everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we will study unit 1, theory and methods. So first, to study theory and methods we should know that what is sociology. Sociology is the study of societies and human life, the social factors that basically affect human life and the ways in which society influences our daily lives. So sociology is also called as social sciences. Sociology basically tries to understand and explain the relationship between people and the societies they live in. So, to study the complex behavior of people in social groups or societies, sociologists use different kinds of tools and theories to overcome this. So now we will study the two main approaches to society. So there are two main approaches, interpretivism and structuralism. In interpretivists say that individuals make up the society. The norms and the values that are present in the society are because humans reflect critically. Interpretivists say that the individuals control the society. In structuralism is a different approach as it is a macro perspective. Structuralists believe that the structures of society controls our life. Society controls our life. Youngsters or individuals do not control the life society, but society controls the youngsters or individuals. So structuralism is a very different perspective than interpretivism. They basically believe that a society makes up a human and controls the life of a human. So after getting about these two approaches, we should know about the conflict and consensus approaches. So there are three main approaches. There functionalism, Marxism and feminism. So what is functionalism? Functionalism is basically a consensus approach. So let me tell you what is consensus. Consensus is a basic agreement on a set of shared values. So consensus is a basic agreement on set of shared values. And what is conflict? Conflict is a disagreement between groups of different interests. So functionalism is a consensus approach, Marxism is a conflict approach, and feminism is also a conflict approach. So first you need to know that what is functionalism? Functionalism is a consensus approach. Functionalists believe that the institution present in the society that has certain functions, just like our human body has certain functions, as way the society also have certain functions to carry out. For example, the function of education is to educate a child or to give him proper norms and values so they can better understand things. So next approach is Marxism. Marxism is a conflict approach. Marxists believe that there are two classes. There is a conflict between two classes, the bourgeoisie and the proletariats. The bourgeoisie term is a little difficult term, but it is easy. Bourgeoisie means the people having wealth, and the owners of lands and wealth, and the proletariat are the people, the working class people. So the Marxists say that the bourgeoisie says that there is a conflict in the society because the bourgeoisie are exploiting the labor by telling them that what they are getting is enough. This way the bourgeoisie are continuously going to exploit them. So the Marxists believe that the society is only stable because of proletariats are being exploited. So there is a conflict between these two groups and classes. In feminism is also a conflict approach, but it's not about the conflict in two classes. It's about the conflict between two genders. So feminists argue that the patriarchy is present in the society. So what is patriarchy? Patriarchy means male dominant society. That means that the males are head over women. So the feminists believe that the patriarchy is present in the society which exploits women. So there is a gender based conflict between the two genders, and the patriarchy is present in the society. So there are two types of feminist: liberal feminist and radical feminist. So what is liberal feminist? Liberal feminist believes that the major advances are made and equality is reached. They think that advances are being done and equality is reaching through further changes in the society. But the radical feminists are opposite. They think that these advances are not made, and still the society is male dominant society, still patriarchy is present, and men still have power. So radical changes are still needed. Radical feminists say that changes are still needed. You need to change the society because still the society is patriarchy and male dominant society. I hope you get these three consensus and conflict approaches. Let's come to the research process. First chapter is a little bore, but you will get to know about things slowly. So let's come to the research process. So what are the research processes? The research processes, first comes hypothesis. What is hypothesis? So, hypothesis is a stable statement that you form for carrying out a research. So, hypothesis is the first form of starting a research. It is a statement that you form to carry out a research. It is a statement to find support, evidence, or disapprove. So hypothesis is the first method to carry out a research. Next is pilot study. So what is pilot study? In pilot study is a small scale test of a piece of a research project before the main research. That means actually before doing the research, it takes your time, it takes your money, so you carry out a small trial before doing your research. Pilot study is just a small trial you perform before doing any research. So it's a small task you perform before doing your actual research, because the research takes your time, your money, and everything. So you carry just a small trial before doing your research. So I hope you got pilot study. Then you perform selecting samples. You collect or select samples. So what is sample? A sample is a selection of population that is used for study. So you collect the samples of population, that how many people are there, that is used for study. And the sample is collected by a sampling frame. So what is sampling frame? Sampling frame is a list of members of the population from which the sample is chosen. These samples must be representative because you cannot take more people, so your results can be more accurate. After selecting samples, you need to collect your data. So that's called collect your data, or you can say data collection. So in data collection, you can collect data by using primary research methods or secondary research method, which we'll discuss in later. So primary research methods can be used, or secondary research methods can be used for collecting data. So primary data is collected by researcher, whereas the secondary data is previously collected. It means that the primary data is now being collected and the secondary data is before already collected. Then after collecting the data, we do data evaluation. So what is data evaluation? Before the research is published, it is evaluated by the experienced sociologist. That means that it is given to the experienced sociologist to look at it, to tell that your strengths, your weaknesses, what is lacking, what is good. So the experienced sociologist will evaluate the research before it's published. So then after data evaluation, analyzing data, you can say the research is published, or you can say that your data is analyzed. Means that you can now publish your data, or your data is published. So previously in data collection I talked about primary data primary methods, research methods, and secondary research methods. So let's talk about primary and secondary research methods. So in primary research methods, there are many ways of primary research questionnaires. What are questionnaires? So questionnaires are the set of questions arranged in a form. The questionnaires can be close-ended or open-ended. So what is close-ended and what is open-ended? Close-ended means that the options that you give are fixed, or your sample that you choose from the options is given. It means you have to select from yes or no. You have to just say yes or no. If there is option written yes or no. If you go in a restaurant, there's an example. If you go in a restaurant, the waiter or the manager asks you for a review. So there is a questionnaire in which there are options: awful, good, better, excellent. So these are the options given to you. So you don't have any open-ended answer to give your perspective. You have close-ended points. You have to just take yes, no, awful, or this. So this is the example of close-ended questionnaires. So what is open-ended questionnaires? Open-ended means that you can answer or give your own perspective. In open-ended you can give your perspective. You can tell that what you think about it in detail. There are some strengths and weaknesses of these research methods. So in questionnaires, the strengths are that the questionnaires are cheaper and they are less time consuming. They doesn't consume your more time, and they are more reliable. So what are some weaknesses? Weaknesses are that you don't get the why part. That means that you don't get the why it's happening, why. And the second thing is that it is very low in validity. It's reliable, but it's not valid. It's not that much valid. And the third thing that is that questionnaires can have low response rates. It can have some low response rate that is not good for your service or anything you are performing. So the fourth thing is that people may lie. The people in front of you may lie in questionnaires. You don't know that what they are thinking, so they can lie. And the main problem is that you don't know that the people understood the question or not. So you don't know that your questionnaire is correct or wrong. I mean that you don't know that your response rate is good or not. What are interviews? So next is interviews. You can use interviews to collect the data about your research. So what are interviews? There are three types of interviews: structured interviews, unstructured interviews, and semi-structured interviews. So what are unstructured interviews? Unstructured interviews are very casual and you are not prepared. They are very casual and are usually not prepared. Structured interviews are formal and they are prepared. The questions are prepared and you are also prepared for the interview. Then what is semi-structured interviews? Semi-structured interviews are mix of pre-decided questions and the questions that you come up during the interview. Means that you know some questions and you don't know some questions. So these are a mix of pre-decided questions or not. So this is semi-structured interviews. So what are some strengths of interviews? You can get detailed and valid data. Interviewers can access because the respondent is in the front. Interviewers can access that you are in front or the respondent is in the front of you. So you may explain the question carefully or easily. So what are some limitations or weaknesses? That you need to select time, space, and you will have more problems inconvenience in selecting time or space, and you are not able to make generalization. And the standard questions are not used and they are less reliable. So they are valid but they are less reliable. People may change their answers or change their mind. Different perspective can get clashes. So there are different perspective of different people, so that can get some clashes in between the interviewer and the respondent. Moving on to the experiments. What are experiments? You can think about experiments usually in science labs or when you study science, but in sociology there are some experiments. There are two types of experiments. One is laboratory experiments, and second is and the other is field experiments. So what is laboratory experiments? Laboratory experiments that are carried out in an artificial setting. That's not real, it's carried out in an artificial setting and in labs. So what are some limitations of laboratory experiments? So people may not act as they usually act, that they know that this is a proper experiment performing in lab, so people will not act as they usually act. Lab experiments are difficult to carry out, so obviously lab experiments are little difficult to carry out. There are ethical and moral limitations because you cannot study human being in laboratories. So the second is field experiments. The field experiments are field settings carried out in your natural environment. It's not in a lab or a specific place. It's committed in a natural environment. Field settings are carried out in natural environment. So what are some strengths of field experiments? So people do not alter the behavior. People do not alter the behavior. It gives you a good idea of what you're trying to see. In a natural environment you get a good idea of what you are going to do or what you are going to see. And the third point is that they have good validity and reliability. So in experiments there is a good reliability and good validity. So what are some weaknesses of field experiments? It is a lot of time consuming. Field experiments are a lot of time consuming. They waste a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy of person. So field experiments have a little weaknesses and good strengths. So now moving on to case studies. Case study is a detailed study. Case study is a detailed study of one event, so it can be quantitative or qualitative. Case study can be quantitative or qualitative. So there are some strengths of case study. Strengths are that you can explore the different types of case deeply, that you can think that what the case is about, what it is about. So if you look at the case carefully, so you can understand it deeply. And the second point is that the case is carefully chosen, then wider conclusions can be made. If the case is carefully chosen, then wider conclusions can be made. So what are the limitations? Limitations are there can only apply to a case. Limitations are that they can only apply to a case, nothing else, only apply to a case. And generalization cannot be made. The third point is that one person's finding may vary from other persons, so they vary in between two findings. The fourth point is that deep involvement of researcher can influence the findings. So I hope you understand the thing. Let's come to longitudinal studies. So what is longitudinal studies? Longitudinal studies are survey taking place at intervals, means studying a group for a long time. It means that longitudinal, you get from the word that long. It is long, it takes lot of time, and that is one of the limitations. So what are some limitations? That they are very time consuming, that I've already told you before, that they are long, so they are time consuming. And the second point is they require respondents commitments. So they require respondent commitment. So if the respondent is not committed, so the longitudinal studies may stop or break in between. Respondents may leave at any time in between, so this would be also a weakness or a limitation of case study, and they are not easy to carry out. They are difficult to carry out, they are not easy to carry out. Longitudinal studies are not easy to carry out. Coming on to participant and non-participant observation. So what is participant observation? Participant observation is that the researcher takes part in the study. That the participant is participating in the research, and he is over there in the research and he's performing the research. And in participant observation, researcher is not present in the group, but they study the group from a distance. They are not present in the group, but they study the group from a distance. So what are some strengths that of participant observation? That high validity, there is high validity because you are present with the respondent, you are there and you can get detailed information and deep understanding of the case or the research when you are perform when you are there. And if you are not present there, so obviously you cannot get the proper observation and proper thing. So so there are many limitations of participant and non-participant observation, and there are two types of, first you need to understand the two types of observations, that are overt and covert. So what is overt? Overt is when you tell the group that you are a researcher and you are participating in the research. Overt is when you tell that you are present over there and I am participating, I am the researcher and I am here and I am participating in the research. So what is covert? Covert is when you hide your identity while you're studying a group. You are hiding your identity, that you are not present over, you are present over there, but you are hiding that you are not present over here. So when you are in an overt, people may act differently because they know that they are being observed, so they'll act differently. When you are overt, people will act as they normally do not act, because they know that you are, or the researcher is observing them. So this is one of the limitation when you are overt. And when you are covert, this may be ethically challenging because you are lying and hiding your identity. So when you are covert, so this may be challenging because you are hiding your identity, you are lying, you are not telling the people that you are a researcher and you are present in the research. So let's come to the content analysis. So what is content analysis? Content analysis is when you study the content of documents and mass. You have to study the content of documents and mass media. In content analysis, you define a set of category and classify the material, and you see that how much it appears. You have to classify, or you have to categorize the material in content analysis. So what are some strengths in content analysis? That it is an statistical form, so it's high in reliability. It is in statistical form, so it's high in validity. But you cannot carry out you can carry out comparative analysis. So you can also carry out comparative analysis. So what are some limitations? Limitations are that statistics are low in validity. They are low in validity. They are good in reliability, but they are low in validity, and you are not getting the detailed information. This is also a main limitation, that you are not getting the detailed information about the research. So what is triangulation? Coming to triangulation, so the last is triangulation. The last method is primary research method is triangulation. So what is triangulation? Triangulation means the use of two or more methods in same research project. You use two or more research methods in one single project. In one single project, you use two research methods, three research methods, or more. So the some strengths of triangulations are that it can allow the researcher to support quantitative data with qualitative examples. It can be used to check the validity of the research. It means that it is valid. It can be used to check the reliability. It can check the reliability, it can check the validity, and it can be used for cross referencing. You can cross reference the researchers interpretations. So these are some strengths of triangulation. So there are some limitations or weaknesses as well. So limitations are that using several methods, if you are using many methods at the same time, it's time consuming and expensive, and the results can be wrong. And if you are using the method, the researcher is more skilled, the researchers must be more skilled in these several methods. You should be more skilled in these several methods. Positivist and interpretivist approaches are based on very different ideas, so it may be difficult to combine them in a piece of research. That a positivist think different, interpretivist thinks differently. So these both think differently. So what are positivist? Let me tell you first. So positivism is also approach to sociology based on studying society in a scientific manner. So positivists say that society is studied in an scientific manner. So positivist and interpretivist have different ideas, so these both ideas cannot come to a piece of research together. So it can be also a limitation to the research methods. of triangulation. Moving to the next slide, secondary research methods. So there are two types of secondary research methods: quantitative research methods and qualitative research methods. So what are quantitative research methods? So quantitative research methods are, so there are three types of quantitative research methods: hard statistics, soft statistics, national and government stats. So what are hard statistics? Hard statistics are free from error or incompleteness. They are not error, there are no errors, or they are free from errors, you can say. So there are, they are like birth rates, you can say that they are like birth rates. Hard statistics can be birth rate. So what are soft statistics? Soft statistics are dependent on people. The soft statistics are usually dependent on people, that they can make choice that what they record, crime or unemployment or anything. So what they record, it's up to the people or their choices. So what are some strengths of soft statistics? The strengths are that they are readily available in free of charge. They're always available, and they produced by researcher that is well planned. It is well planned, and it's valid, reliable, and representative. Some important thing is that is valid, reliable, and representative. It shows trends, stats, and allows comparisons to be made. It also shows the trends, the statistics, and allow it the comparisons to be made over them. So what are some limitations? Limitations are there are, the stats may not be accurate. The stats may be wrong. They will not be accurate. So what are stats? Stats may be charged by the government. These stats may be charged by the government. So this may be also increase in expense or all. So what does Marxists say? The Marxists say that these stats reflect the interest of upper class. Marxists always say that these stats always reflect the interest of upper class. They reflect the standard of upper class, and interpretivists argue that they are socially constructed rather than objective facts. That they argue that the socially constructed, so they are influenced by the society. They think that they are influenced by the society, and they are socially constructed rather than objective facts. Moving on to the next. So there are some qualitative research methods. I'm sorry, there's an error in the research spelling, just because of editing and all, so sorry. Let's come to the qualitative research methods. So qualitative research methods can be in a form of a letter or diary. So what is letter or diary? You may be knowing that. So letter or diary, it may be in a form of a biography or autobiography. It can be in a form of a private document. It can be a private document. So what are some strengths of qualitative research methods? So they are high in validity. The main strength is that they are high in validity. The people involved have descriptive details. People have descriptive details, and they know about the details that are present, that are missing in statistics. They know about the descriptive details that is missing in statistics. Okay, so what are some limitations? Limitations are they're unrepresentative. They're not representative. They're not at all representative. So they can be biased. Okay, so they can be biased. They need to be checked against other sources. They have to be checked against other sources. Hope you all are clear. So thank you. See you in the next video. I'll come up with chapter 3's video soon. Bye bye.